everyone. So we are cooking or are we baking? We are baking. This is going to be our second time baking together. I am getting my apron on just because I know that sometimes I can be pretty messy with flour. So if you watched last time's cooking video, the little porks and special sauce, thank you for watching. I know I didn't show you the recipe card, but this isn't it, but this is what it would have looked like. This is a laminated recipe, because I'm crazy. So like I said, we're baking some of my favorite cookies, and I was gonna make apple crisp for you, which I'm still gonna make this week because I have a ton of apples since we're apple picking. So I may still film apple crisp and save it for next time. I don't know, so don't be like waiting for sure, but I do make a yummy apple crisp. Anyway, so back to the cookies. So I had mentioned making my favorite coconut cookies, and a couple of you had reached out saying you're super excited. So we're making coconut dream cookies. This is a recipe I found it years ago. I just use it every year. So this is the recipe I like to use around the holidays, Valentine's Day. It's a white cookie, so you can put whatever dye you want in it. It's great. So if I was like doing Christmas baking, I would do a batch of red and a batch of green. That way when I'm giving away cookie baskets, it's just colorful and cute. So anyways, back to the coconut dream cookies. My oven is already set to 325. I've got my ingredients right here. So you're going to need firm coconut oil or shortening. I have shortening just because I would use it for other baking things, so it's easier for me to have on hand. Sugar, 1 egg, vanilla, real vanilla, 1 cup of flour, half a teaspoon of baking powder, half a teaspoon of salt, and then 1 cup of chocolate chips, which is an optional ingredient. So sometimes I'll make these and I'll leave the chocolate chips out, and then like tonight I'm putting the chocolate chips in. And then the most important ingredient, 1 cup of sweetened coconut flakes, okay? So again, make sure your oven is preheated to 325. Your next step, once your oven is preheated to 325, you're gonna get out your baking sheet and you're just gonna line it with parchment paper. We're gonna use the parchment paper because these cookies, we really want the bottoms to be perfect. We don't want them sticking at all. We want a perfect golden brown, maybe not even. So the parchment paper, okay? So I just bought a new parchment paper. I had some, but I moved and obviously wasn't gonna go bother my old roommates for parchment paper, you guys. So parchment paper, just in case you're not familiar, it's even got cookies on the front, okay? So parchment paper in the pan, super simple. Some of you might be fancy and you might own like silicone baking sheets. They go right in the baking sheet, or baking mats, I guess. They're silicone baking mats. So they lay nice and flat in the baking sheet. So if you're fancy, get those out instead of the parchment paper. So oven is preheated to 325. Baking sheet is lined with parchment paper. So next we need to get out the hand mixer. Here we are with our hand mixer. So the first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna cream together the shortening or coconut oil, whichever you've chosen, and the sugar, and so we just want it to be light and fluffy. Once it's light and fluffy, that's when you'll add your egg and vanilla, okay? And I'll show you. Okay, shortening, sugar. So I'm gonna mix the shortening and the sugar in the large bowl because typically you'll do those wet ingredients and then you slowly add the dry ingredients. So in the end, you want the larger bowl. So So let's get started with, we need half a cup of shortening. Okay, so this is half a cup of shortening. You'll see I packed it down. You always want to pack it down just because shortening is famous for having little air pockets. So just pack it down, make sure it's solid. And then just scoop it right in. And then next we will add 3/4 of a cup of sugar. So next we're doing 3/4 of a cup of sugar. I have my quarter cup, so I'm just gonna do that 3 times. That's the most math you'll ever see me do. I'm really bad at math, but I can get to 3/4 of a cup from 1/4 of a cup for sure. I'm not sure how many I put in, so we'll do this many. That's supposed to be 3/4 of a cup of sugar. Mind you, if I actually used the 3/4 of a cup, I wouldn't have had that mishap. So it turns out I still can't count. Great. So we will mix this up until it's light and fluffy, and then we'll add the egg and vanilla. Okay, so I've got the sugar and the shortening creamed together. Next we'll add 1 egg and then vanilla. One egg. Then we have vanilla. Like I said, I have real vanilla. If you need to use imitation or you prefer imitation, go for it, but I have to have the real deal. Hand washing. Okay, and then the vanilla. So we just need 1 teaspoon of vanilla. This is a brand new vanilla, mine ran out. So next we have 1 teaspoon of vanilla. In there we already have sugar, shortening, and 1 egg. So once we've added the egg and vanilla, we turn over my recipe card. So we just mix those, as I suspected. Mixed up. So next, like I mentioned earlier, we're gonna get the dry ingredients together in this other bowl. So that'll be the flour, baking powder, and salt, okay? Flour, baking powder, and salt. And I'm repeating that for myself. So, flour, we need 1 cup of flour. I've been experimenting in the kitchen to figure out the best spot to film, and this has been the best spot. I've got this whole unused counter over there, but this is the best spot for me that I found where you can kind of see what I'm doing and you can see me. So, however, if you've got like an eye for that sort of thing and you're like, oh, I think you can put your camera somewhere else, you can help me. That's fine. So once we get this flour opened, it's sealed up pretty darn well. I'm gonna have to open it like a savage in a second. Yep, savage mode. Oh my God. Here we go. Whatever, it's ripped open. The flour has been opened like a savage. So I'm kind of packing it down with the bag. So 1 cup of flour. Does it say slowly? Oh yeah, that's right, it goes over here. See, that's why I always look at the card. I've made this recipe a million times, but I'm just forgetful, so I always look in between steps. And as you'll see, that's something I need to do. So next we add the baking powder. It's just half a teaspoon of baking powder, okay? Okay, half a teaspoon of baking powder. We need to get some salt in there. I never measure salt. I'm just gonna put it in. Whoops. Well, I'll be honest, the baking powder and the salt went into here, but that's fine. So this is just the flour. So I'll just mix it up for good measure. This is great. Baking with Leah. Then we just kind of mix it into here. Actually, it does not say to slowly mix it in, which I thought was strange because most recipes do say that. This one doesn't. So let's just get it mixed up here. Oh yeah, it's mixing up perfectly. So after this, we add the coconut flakes and the chocolate chips, okay? Which, just remember that the chocolate chips are optional. Ugh. I need the chocolate chips. Let's see. So with the coconut flakes, you want 1 cup. 1 cup, okay? And there's lots of other things you can do with the coconut flakes. Coconut shrimp, yummy. It's just hard to get out of the bag. I probably should have opened it a little more. There. Now, if you want like super coconut cookies, you could add in a drop or 2 of coconut extract. If you want them to have a hint of almond, use a little bit of almond extract. So a lot of times when I make a plain sugar cookie, I'll add almond extract because I love that taste. So then we're just gonna add the chocolate chips. Okay, so last we add the chocolate chips. It's 1 cup. Just dump them in. I'm gonna run the mixer on the lowest cycle. You can also just gently mix them in with your spoon. I just want that coconut spread throughout all of it. You want little coconut shreds in each cup. So, since the oven is already on, the baking sheet is already lined with parchment paper. The last thing we do is drop the cookie dough by the tablespoon on the parchment paper. You want them about an inch apart. Then you bake them for 12 to 15 minutes until lightly brown, lightly. And the lightly part is why we use parchment paper. So I'm just gonna use a regular tablespoon like I normally would. Oops. Chocolate chip on the floor. I'll have to make sure to pick that up before Luna gets it. Little sneak, she would scoop that up. So I'll just wash my hands before I get in there. So by the tablespoon and about 1 inch apart. Let me move my baking sheet over here. So just little round cookies, well, kind of round. I'm gonna do 3 in each row. Now, if you have extra dough, you could, you don't want to bake it all, you can freeze it, so you don't have to bake it all at once. This is probably, I'm not sure how many cookies this is going to make, probably at least 20, because like I said, I use it, this recipe is for holiday baking. And you can also make the cookies bigger if you want, but then you just have to, you know, think about that bake time. The bigger the cookie, you know, it's probably just going to have to bake a little longer. And same if you want to do mini cookies. I can fit another row. Yeah, so this will probably be about 2 batches of cookies. So that'll be about 24 cookies. Okay, great. So let me show you these cookies. They're all lined up. They're going to be for 12 to 15 minutes. So I'll get them right in the oven right now. And I'll be back in 12 or 15 minutes to check on the cookies. So the first batch is done. These are literally fresh out of the oven. You can see, I don't know if you can see, but some of these coconut ends are crispy. I've lifted up a cookie. They're brown on the end, golden, very lightly brown, like it says. So I'm just gonna let them sit on here, because oftentimes they'll finish cooking on the pan. And then once they're done, I'm gonna pop them on a plate and then get the next batch in the oven, okay? Okay guys, so all the cookies are done. You'll notice I just topped them with a little bit of orange frosting, and I'll tell you why. So normally I would just melt some chocolate chips and then drizzle that chocolate on top, but because it's fall and Halloween's around the corner, I just picked up some orange frosting to be cute. So again, you don't even have to drizzle anything on top. You can eliminate the chocolate chips in the cookies and then drizzle them on top. You can do both. You can make these colored. They're really great. Dan's already had 2 of them. I'm about to have a couple. They're super cute. They're also super chewy, which is what I love in a good cookie. Chewy. So thank you for joining me for our second Baking with Leah episode. I hope you enjoyed. I hope that you're super curious about these cookies and that you're going to try to make them. If you do, tell me how they came out and if you use chocolate chips or not, and then if you drizzled anything on top. So again, they're the coconut dream cookies. I'll pop the recipe onto my blog, that way you can access it there, because I know you're not going to be able to remember it. And then again, just comment and let me know how they came out, or if you follow me on Instagram or anywhere, send me a picture, just reach out. I'm always curious if you guys try things that I like. So if you're not following me, if you're not subscribed, make sure you do all of that, and you can find me everywhere you are as Voluptuous Leah. So thank you for joining.